responsibility. Yesterday, Sunday, 5th April 2020, I held a video conference with the governors on the platform of the Nigerian Governors Forum, all in an attempt to create synergy and coordination in our response. I want to seize this opportunity to reiterate my plea for cooperation, collaboration, and openness in information and data sharing, as well as containment and management efforts. Stringent efforts should be made not to stir unnecessary controversies on issues such as status of test results when such issues fall within the remit of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and other public health experts. Since the last briefing on Friday, 3rd April 2020, the graph has changed both globally and domestically. The Honorable Minister of Health, the Director General NCDC, as well as the National Coordinator, will brief you on latest developments. Ladies and gentlemen, our efforts have been receiving commendations and support from different quarters. Last week, the UN Secretary General singled out Nigeria for commendation in her efforts in the control of COVID-19. This is a shot in the arm that will spur us to act better, faster, and much more strategically. Early this morning, the United Nations One COVID-19 Basket Fund for Nigeria was launched in this very hall. The Basket Fund is one of the 4 initiatives jointly designed by Nigeria and the United Nations family to serve as a financing and investment platform through which financial contributions to the multi-sectoral efforts could be made by private sector and other stakeholders. The basket will stimulate a rapid procurement of equipment and consumables, support socio-economic intervention of vulnerable groups, as well as scaling up efforts on detection, isolation, contact tracing, etc. The National Coordinator will give you details of the Basket Fund initiative. Similarly, over the weekend, the Presidential Task Force received 5 ambulances through the NMPC and its partners. These vehicles shall be deployed for effective use immediately. One major support that has attracted public commentaries is the offer by CCECC, a Chinese company, to import about 256 equipment and items in different quantities, notable amongst which are 1,300,000 medical masks, over 150,000 pieces of assorted personal protective equipment, as well as 50 medical ventilators. The company has also proposed and on its own suggested to sponsor public health experts to help strengthen our public health capacity and advise on processes and procedure. However, I wish to clarify that all the countries of the world are seeking for assistance and are receiving help in the fight against COVID-19. Even the almighty United States is looking for help elsewhere. The support coming from China is a corporate social responsibility initiated by CCECC, a company with a total volume of infrastructural contracts in Nigeria worth over 10 billion naira. The professionals that have been invited or by CCCE through their parent company in China to come are public health specialists and medical engineers that will support Nigeria's capacity in managing the pandemic on an advanced basis when necessary. That is expressed in the content of their letter. They wrote and suggested, should in case we would need advice on how they were able to manage the pandemic in China and have flattened the curve. As a matter of fact, China is not experiencing any community transmission. As a matter of fact, most of the transmissions that are very worrisome to China now are those that are being imported into China. They said, peradventure, we will seek and will require such assistance through their mother company because of their volume of business in Nigeria and their responsibility as a corporate citizen. They will want to offer that help. Nigeria, on an advisory basis, while drawing from the experiences of the Chinese, in no way shall there be case management and interface with patients. They will train our manpower, advise on procedures and methods, install and test the equipment donated before handing them over for our technicians to begin to use them. I therefore use this medium to appeal to our medical professionals to see the positive aspect of this gesture as an extension of development in the field of medicine. The PTF recognizes and respects the competence and the capability of Nigerian doctors and other medical personnel. This is a state of war against the coronavirus, and time should not be devoted to unhelpful controversies. CCECC, all of you know that they are the ones that are building our railway from Ibadan to Lagos, from Kaduna from Abuja to Kaduna, from Ibadan via Mina, Abuja, Kaduna, and Kano. They are the ones working on the Itakwe-Ajakuta rail. They have rolling stock and the building of wagons somewhere in Ogun State. And like I said, if you aggregate the total of their business outreaches in Nigeria, it's in excess of $10 billion. And as a responsible corporate citizen, they have offered this. I have a total list of the items. They have chartered a Nigerian aircraft to come and pick those things and bring it so that we can build our capacity in the event that we have a major outbreak and a surge that we need to deal with. As I said, we should devote more time to dealing with the pandemic and avoid any unnecessary controversy that will distract us, misdirect us, and take us off the objective for which we've all are bound to fight this pandemic. With these very few remarks, I now invite the Honorable Minister of Health to take the podium and give us updates on developments within the last couple of days. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I shall also be amplifying some of the things the Secretary of the Government has already said and also provide details. Over the weekend, we recorded 42 new cases, bringing to a total of 232 the number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria. They are in 14 states and the Federal Capital Territory as of today, the 6th of April, 2020. We have recorded 5 fatalities in total, all with underlying ailments. A total of 33 patients have been discharged from treatment, and we have 120 patients in Lagos State, 47 in the FCT, Osun 20, Oyo 9, Edo 9, Bauchi 6, Akwa Ibom 5, Kaduna 5, Ogun 4, Enugu 4, Ekiti 2, while Ondo, Rivers, and Benue have 1 each. Through enhanced surveillance systems and strengthened epidemic intelligence, we continue to detect cases of COVID-19 and treat them to recovery. We have tested over 5,000 samples so far and are working hard to scale up capacity in a targeted approach. The increase in cases with no clear epidemiological definition will mean that there will be a need to discuss changes in our public advisory. This will be after the Ministry of Health and its agencies have sat down to review and analyze the situation. Since the last briefing, we have activated 2 additional laboratories for COVID-19 testing at the Defense Reference Laboratory, which is here in Abuja, and at the Biosafety Level 3 Laboratory in Lagos. In the coming month, we intend to expand to more laboratories with capacity to treat COVID-19. We have also identified additional treatment centers in Utako and Mabushi, which will give us a minimum of 400 beds, and they are presently under renovation and repair. We inspected these sites over the weekend. The Hospital Accreditation Committee, which is led by the Honorable Commissioner of Lagos State and the team from IRWA and includes NCDC and directors of Ministry of Health, has inspected and accredited 3 centers in Abuja. I will continue with that as time goes on. We are working with the African Union to develop a continental response, and a joint continental strategy for COVID-19 response has been developed with the African Task Force on Coronavirus to set up and coordinate preparedness and response in a coordinated fashion on the continent. On Friday, I announced that an 18-man team of Chinese medical technical experts is expected in Nigeria with the consignment of globally scarce supplies to augment government efforts and build capacity to contain the outbreak. The equipment include PPEs and consumables and more than 1 million masks for workers and even ICU ventilators. Many of you read the news, we know that there is global competition for masks and that certain countries have been accusing each other of capturing each other's masks, as there has also been a global competition for ventilators with some countries donating ventilators to others and also swapping ventilators. So therefore, it is particularly gratifying that in the face of all of this, we are able to get these supplies here, which even if you had the money, you may not have been able to order. In addition, the technical experts, they comprise research doctors, nurses, and laboratory technicians with public health managers who will share their own knowledge and skills and their real-life experience of fighting COVID-19 with Nigerian experts, Nigerian personnel, to strengthen our own management of cases, especially with regard to critical care. As we all know, this country has had quite an experience with it. Now, this initiative will greatly build the capacity of our hardworking and resourceful Nigerian healthcare workers who are at the forefront of fighting the virus. But the most needed PPE, personal protective equipment and masks, will also protect our frontline workers and mitigate the spread of this disease. We do have a window of opportunity to strengthen strengthen our response mechanism through lessons we learn from any country at all that has had the experience and can provide hands-on demonstration of how to deal with the outbreak and give the Nigerian clinical workforce the opportunity of sharing global best practices. While ensuring that we do not lose gains made in the health sector, we shall continue to support the states in strengthening their preparedness and their response to COVID-19. Rapid response teams have been deployed to many affected states to support their response. Yes, once again, I want to advise that older persons and persons with vulnerable underlying ailments be protected, put in protected isolation, especially from persons who may fit the case definition of coronavirus infected persons or who have been abroad or have been close contacts of those who have been abroad. Because as you know, there are persons who may be carriers and are not necessarily demonstrating any symptoms. Thank you.
Chair, honorable ministers, gentlemen and ladies of the press. Today we'll elaborate a little bit on some of the work that we've been doing given the presidential directive over the last week and the week ahead of us. So the primary reason for this directive was to enable the hard work being done at the states to happen. Case finding, contact tracing, and bringing in cases into hospitals. So to improve the efficiency of this process, we've agreed on certain targets for all the states actively involved in this. These are targets that we will now measure on a daily basis to measure the effectiveness of our work. So I'm making these targets public because we will measure our progress based on these targets. The targets might seem a bit broad at the moment, but we will tighten this every day over the next few days because we need to show that the time given us by Mr. President has been worth the sacrifice that Nigerians are making. The 5 key targets that we're setting for teams in Abuja and Lagos are to make sure that the collection of samples from individuals, symptomatic individuals, happen within 8 hours of notification of the state team. Secondly, that the turnaround time for testing and resulting will be less than 24 hours. This is the case because sometimes samples come in late in the evening and have to be resulted the next day. The third one is we plan to test 200 samples per day in Lagos and 100 samples per day in Abuja by the end of this week. Number 4 is to isolate patients in less than 6 hours after they have received a positive result at the state level. And we plan to isolate every confirmed case. So we will measure ourselves with percentages on each of these indicators and use that to improve the effectiveness of the response. In addition to case finding, the second most important thing is contact tracing, i.e. listing all the contacts and making sure we find all of them. This involved a very strenuous effort in sometimes following tens of contacts of each individual. There used to be a lot more when the flights were still coming in, but now each case would have about 30 to 40 contacts to follow up. Like you all know, Nigerians are very sociable people, so everyone generally has a lot of contacts, friends, family, around them. So this is a very intense activity now going on in every state that has cases, but of course most of this is happening in Lagos and Abuja. Every contact is then followed up for 14 days. To date, about 30% of all our cases have been found through this contact tracing. So it is through the contact tracing that we have found about 30% of all our cases. To make this possible, we use an electronic platform we call SORMAS. This helps us track all the cases, understand who is linked, which contact is linked to what case, and through that we can monitor which contacts are developing symptoms and then continue the chain of transmission from there. This is sometimes limited by phone networks and voice and audio, but we keep pushing hard to make sure we use this as effectively as possible. We've engaged a lot of volunteers to help this work, mostly in Lagos, but some in Abuja as well. The WHO has helped us with a lot of their expertise. So people working across the country have literally all been withdrawn into supporting this response in Lagos. So in addition to the state level, we have a local government level intensively following up every individual in Lagos State. In Abuja, it's still organized at a state level because we can still manage the number of cases here. So this is just to give you a flavor of the very hard, intensive work that has gone on last week and will continue this week. This is one of the primary reasons Mr. President gave us these 2 weeks in Lagos and Abuja to strengthen the response. So I really urge all Nigerians to support these activities as they happen, especially friends in Lagos. When you see the teams arriving, please give them some respect, allow them the space to work, and let them do the very difficult task that they're carrying out. Finally, I did say we will release a policy on face masks this week. That policy has almost been completed. In fact, the draft is now being looked at by various colleagues to make sure that we're all aligned. And tomorrow or next, we'll be releasing that policy for all of us to align with together. So I'll end my update for today then. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We'll take the national coordinator.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to mention to the public the launch of the Nigeria UN COVID-19 Basket Fund, which happened this morning. This is an initiative set up by the UN system together with multi-sectoral partners as well as the private sector. The plan is to have a specific fund for donations from the UN system as well as from international donors. The fund will be used to procure commodities, including ventilators, things that generally at the moment are proving very difficult to acquire through the normal routes. The UN system has the advantage of having reach, being able to negotiate with national governments. To this end, they've already put in $1.4 million, I believe, so far, with commodities coming in over this week, including about 50 ventilators. I must re-emphasize that this fund is completely independent of government. No money will come to the Presidential Task Force or to the federal government. The donations will be in kind, and that's what we are encouraging other sectors to please do. Secondly, I wanted to inform the public that we have intensified our extensive distribution of COVID-19 awareness materials across the states and local media, as well as community networks. The general goal is to ensure that every Nigerian has access to life-saving information about the spread, control, and treatment of coronavirus infection. We must also dispel the notion that COVID-19 is an elitist disease. It is not. It has no respect for persons, regardless of your age, regardless of your position in society. In terms of the lockdown, as the Secretary to the Government of the Federation said, currently we have lockdown processes in place for Lagos, Abuja, and Ogun. We expect the public to please adhere strictly to the lockdown protocols. We have been reviewing this regularly together with the security agencies, and I cannot emphasize enough when I say, please stay home, stay home, stay home. It will protect you. It's even more important to draw attention to the need for people who have a higher susceptibility to severe infection, like our elderly, people above the age of 60, 70, those with comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension, and those with uncontrolled viral HIV infection. These groups are the ones that are most likely, when they pick up COVID, to end up in hospital and probably on a ventilator and possibly dying. So these groups in particular really need to protect themselves by keeping away from general public. The DG NCDC last week had a query about testing, particularly as it relates to VIP. Again, I would like to remind the public that there are only 3 indications for testing for COVID. You need to have symptoms, which may be a fever, which happens in the majority of cases, up to 90%, a cough, which happens in 2/3 of cases, and shortness of breath in 1/3. If you have these symptoms and you've come from abroad, you've recently traveled from abroad, returned, or you've had contact with a case of coronavirus disease, or you have presented to a hospital with a respiratory illness consistent with the symptoms, we will test you. But regardless of your position in society, if you do not have these symptoms, we will not test you, because the negative test does not have any value. This is not HIV infection where you want to know your status. This is an acute respiratory infection. And the test we do is looking for the active virus itself. We are not looking for antibody status. So I'm urging the public to please understand with us, because from now on we will be adhering strictly to our protocol for testing. Exempted companies in terms of the lockdown, I wanted to provide additional feedback or clarity. When we talk about agriculture, we mean livestock and animal feed companies. These are all exempted they are exempted businesses that can operate during the lockdown, because they continue to be a major component of our agric sector. I would also like to appeal from the state side, state coordination side, I would like to appeal to our state chief executives. The Presidential Task Force has, one of the decisions we took last week was to urge states, particularly state governors, to make sure they have isolation facilities with at least 300 beds in their localities. At least 300 bed isolation facilities. Preferably, these facilities should be linked to existing infectious disease hospitals or medical centers, because it's easier after the pandemic to then make use of these facilities. But I'm appealing to state governors to please make sure that they have isolation facilities of at least 300 beds at the moment, while we await what happens in terms of the progress of the epidemic. Hopefully, we may not use them, but if we need to use them, we need to be prepared. Finally, I would like to acknowledge our private sectors and donor partners on behalf of the Presidential Task Force, and in particular, patriotic Nigerian medical professionals who continue to work tirelessly with our health officials, as well as hard-working Nigerians providing essential services and the volunteer community. Our collective efforts are critical in helping to arrest the spread of this virus. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We will now take reports from the Honorable Ministers of Aviation, Environment, and Information and Culture, in that order. Honorable Minister of Aviation, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, this will be in Hausa, for the Hausa listeners have been asked to address a few issues very briefly. Akan masu kallonmu da sauraronmu kuma muka samu labari ya zo mana cewa wasu na wanka da gishiri don maganin wannan cutar ta corona. Wasu kuma suna daka kwallon goro ba su sha. To wannan gaskiya bai tasiri bisa ga kimiyya da fasaha sanannu. Kada al'umma su jawo kansu kuma wata cutar ta daban. Sannan kuma ana magana cewa akwai in ka bude surar Bakara za ka ga wani bakin gashi sai ka jiga ka sha wai ya zubillahi. Gashi idan ya fita jikin mutum ya zama kazanta, ba a jibanta shi littafi mai tsarki. Kuma ina ganin ba daidai bane mutane su yi ma kansu irin wannan alƙalanci, baya da tasiri, baya da inda ka samu shi, ko kaɗan ɓata ne ma kata'an. Saboda ka guje shi, a saurari masana kimiyya da fasaha, malaman kiwon lahiya, shine abin da ya fi daidai. Kuma ita annoba a gurguje ba a shiga inda take, kuma ba a fita in ta samu mutum har sai lokacin da wanda ya halice ta ya mana maganta cikin ikonsa. Bayan wannan sai maganar wannan hali na kulle da ake yi, kuma da magana abin da ake cewa social distancing da turanci, wato zaman kuda da buzuzu, shi ake nihi, ba zaman marina ba. Don ita zaman marina kowa ya kalli inda ya ga dama banban, amma ana iya taɓa juna. Amma zaman kuda da buzuzu ba a taɓa juna, wannan shi ake nihi. Kuma wannan na ɗan lokaci ne kaɗan, wanda in Allah da zai kwaranye, domin an bi wannan shine zaman lahiya. Wato kiwon lahiya ana bin shi ne da natsuwa da kuma bin umarni cikin ikon Allah. To wannan a guje su ne bayanan da aka so a yi. Sai kan magana cewa wai ciwo na tajirai, to ko da ciwon a ce na tajirai ne, duk tajiri in ka same shi yana da hadimi, shi kuma hadimi nan talaka ne, kuma zai iya taba mai ɗakinsa, ita kuma ta zuwa kasuwa. Saboda ciwo ne na kowa da kowa, kar a shagala akan haka. A dage a bi shawara ta malaman kimiyya da fasaha. Kuma ita wannan annoba an yi ta wani wuri, an gani, an ga yadda suka yi maganinta. Mu ma wannan hanyar muke bi cikin ikon Allah. Allah sanya mu dace. Assalamu alaikum.
Environment.
Mr. Chairman, honorable members, press, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. From the Federal Minister of Environment, just an update on some of the strategies that we are ramping up in the containment process of the COVID-19. As the Federal Minister of Health and NCDC are undertaking contact tracing, the Federal Minister of Environment is initiating route tracing, facilities tracing, and equipment tracing. I've given an example. The last week or so, when a number of people are conveyed from our border with Benin Republic into Nigeria, about 4 or more people were tested to be positive in that particular bus. So what we want to initiate is to keep track of that trip from where we are conveying this, specifically those that tested positive. And this is information that normally we will get from NCDC and Ministry of Health. So we want to know the route taken by that particular means of transport. Number 2, the facilities, whether these people are taken straight to an isolation center or treatment center. Did they stop somewhere and are kept for a while before moving to the next facility? We want to know that, all in an effort to stem the continuous proliferation of this virus. Secondly, the bus itself, or whatever means of transportation, which possibly can be contaminated, since these are people that are positive, we also want to know, because you don't want to convey positive cases, drop them and just take the same vehicle and go and pick up other people. The possibility of that vehicle being contaminated is there. So the Federal Ministry is initiating this, again, to make sure we step off the continuous proliferation of the virus. And also, in terms of information, like I've mentioned in the last week or two, we have our environmental health officers. Please, if you have any question and you cannot reach on the phone, once you see these people, ask them. They will be able to give you information in terms of advocacy, counseling, or refer you to other places that you will have additional information. So use whatever that is available for you to get information. We need to all work together to be able to contain this deadly virus. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Minister of Information and Culture.
Mr. Chairman, gentlemen of the press, those who are bent on distracting the federal government through fake news from its focused fight against COVID-19 have not relented. The latest in this is the claim that I said there's no hunger in the land and that the federal government has made available 100 billion naira to Nigerians. It is fake. There was no time I said it or anybody in the task force said so. 2, they are also carrying a fake news that members of the task force, they have agreed on the sharing formula of the money that is coming in to the task force. Once again, it is false. These people are bent on distracting the government from its focused fight against COVID-19. And one of the main reasons why we have this daily press conference is to give you an update on COVID-19. Any other news not emanating from either the ministers or from this press conference in relation to COVID-19 cannot be attributed to us. The Center for Disease Control has a website, and you can, at every hour of the day, get an update on COVID-19. Some websites are notorious for this fake news, and one of them is reporterspressng.com. I would advise Nigerians, if they want any information on COVID-19, authentic information on COVID-19, don't go to reporterspressng.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We are now proceeding to the question and answer session. The format is already understood. The basket of questions will be filled. Ministers will take their notes and answers will come in turns thereafter. You have taken your numbers. We have a huge number here. We have 16, but we'll be pegging to 10. So let's do questions 1 to 10 immediately, in that order.
And one question each.
Please remember, don't ask the same question. Also, no foundation argument, just go straight to your question. And finally, please don't double barrel your questions. Make them compact and just go straight. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Yemi Adebayo from AIT. Well, I want to align myself with how the questions have been modulated. I have 4 questions, but I will reduce this to 2. And the first question, sir, is to the SGF. How prepared are we if at the end of the week, after you must have submitted the full assessment report on the lockdown order to Mr. President, and he decides to extend the lockdown, how prepared are we in terms of improving on the palliative measures so that Nigerians don't suffer the more as the situation is now? Then secondly, I want to ask, we understand that some persons were recently trained as epidemiologists, and what is their situation? Can't they do the job the Chinese doctors are coming to do, because the NMA, the TUC are saying that there is no need to bring in this set of Chinese doctors? What is the situation? Are this set of people, can't they do the job? Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, sirs. My name is Friday Okerigbe. I'm a reporter with Channels TV. I have 2 questions. I would have actually loved if the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs is here, but she's not. Perhaps the SGF will assist in providing answer to that. The second day of our briefing, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs actually told us that the ministry was considering bringing on board the urban poor, which include those artisans and others who depend on their daily income. 1 week down, how many of these group of persons have been brought on board? The second question, it has to do with a distress voice that was sent to me by a nurse who is working at the Yaba hospital. She complained bitterly about irregularities in the payment for the month of March and some other incentives that they were supposed to receive. So my question is, what checks do we have to ensure that all the incentives, all the entitlements that are actually meant for those at the forefront of this fight get to them? Thank you.
Honorable Ministers, DG, members of the press. My name is Amaka Ude. I report for Arise News. And my first question would actually go to the chairman of the PTF. And of course, yes, while we're commending the Chinese company and other individuals who have actually been donating materials to this fight against COVID-19, my question really is about, manufacturing these things here in the country. I do know that some indigenous companies, such as Inosin, have actually indicated interest to actually manufacture even the ventilators. I want to know where we are in terms of involving indigenous companies to produce these materials that are in high demand all across the world. And the next one is actually a question that came in from a contractor, and if still go to the chairman of the task force. Well, he's actually commending the task force and the federal government for all that they've been doing to ameliorate the pains of Nigerians, especially during this lockdown. But he's also asking, this is a question from Victor Akwoji. He's saying, what is the government doing to pay some of their local contractors that have not been paid since late last year until now? Some ministries like the FCTA, the Ministry of Works and Housing, Power, Education, just to mention a few, they have been caught up in this coronavirus lockdown, and there is negative ripple effect on their numerous workers, families, as well as the economy at large. So again, how is the government planning to pay them at these strange and dangerous times? Thank you.
Good afternoon, sirs. My name is Juliana Taiwo Baloyen. I write for the Sun newspapers. SGF, sir, probably the Minister of Health. What the Medical Association is saying is that they were not carried along. Question is why? And how involved are they going to be in this outreach once the delegation comes? Secondly, health professionals in Katsina are asking for test labs to be set in the state or the zone, that this will reduce the time spent to get results outside the zone. How soon will that be done? Lastly, from me, the 10 billion has been given to Lagos State to support their fight against COVID-19. The states that are equally experiencing this, how much is going to be given to them and how soon? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. SGF. Good afternoon, Honorable Minister, and my colleague, Abuja Rachel from News Agency of Nigeria. To the Minister of Health, will the Chinese medical experts be will they be on isolation in 14 days as a matter of national policy when they arrive? Second question, please. I would like to know if mental health professionals are providing support and counseling for people in isolation and under quarantine. And also, are mental health professionals considered to be frontline health workers? Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, the SGF. Good afternoon, the SGF, Honorable Ministers, and the DG and CDC. My name is Rahila Lassa. I report for Voice of Nigeria. My first question is, earlier the task force team says it was It will involve the Ministry of Trade and Investment to produce local consumables in the fight against COVID-19. Now, is the Standard Organization of Nigeria engaged in this to ensure that these products are produced, or these products meet standard, meet the required standard, or are we engaging foreign agencies to do that for us? Secondly, there is a rumor that there is a suspected case in Apple Zone D, and where the suspect vehemently resisted being taken to the isolation center by the NCDC staff. How true is this? And if it is true, what is the update? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Honorable Ministers. My name is Amarachi Wangoma, Voice of Nigeria Igbo Service. And my question goes to the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs and DG NCDC. Mejasibo Adria. Otumbo ụwa na-ahụ maka ihe na-aga ugbu a kpụpụrụ ala Naịjirịa okpu n'izu gara aga na mbọ ha na-agba iji chụọ ajọ ọrịa coronavirus ọsọ ukwu eru ala. Ma anyị na-anụ oge a na gọọmenti etiti na-eme agba mbọ na ịkpọbata ndị dibịa bekee sitere na mba China ịbata n'obodo anyị ịbịa tinye aka iji gwọọ ọrịa. Kedu ihe kpatara o ji dịrị otu a? Ọ bụ na ndị dibịa bekee nke ala Naịjirịa ha ezughị ka eme, ha enweghị ihe nke ha kwesịrị ime, n'ihi na anyị ma na anyị nwere ndị bụ ọkachamara na ọrụ ahụike. Ihe ọzọ bụ dịka onye ọrụ m si jụọ gbasara kepụkepụ a na-anụ n'oge a na enwere onye butere goro ọrịa corona nọ na legislative quarters nke nọ na Abuja. Kedu nke bụ eziokwu na nke a bụ ajụjụ nke dịịrị nwanne anyị nwoke bụ DG NCDC. Nke ọzọ bụ maka nwanne anyị nwoke onye nke minista na-ahụ maka mmekọrịta mba na mba na-ajụ ya sị imeela ka anyị mata na ala Naịjirịa ụmụnna anyị dị nọ na mba ofesi na a na-agba mbọ ịhụ na ka ha si dịrị ọnọdụ ha si dịrị na ịkpọlata ha n'ụlọ bụ oke na ọrụ dịịrị ụlọ ọrụ embassies ndị a. Ajụjụ anyị na-ajụ ugbu a ka ọ dị ugbu a anyị agawala ihe dịka izu abụọ nke a malitere bata n'obodo anyị na-aga ihe dịka otu ọnwa o bidoro na mba ụwa ndị ọzọ. O nwegoro ka unu si nweta ozi na mba ofesi maka ụmụnna anyị dị nọ na ala Naịjirịa chọrọ ịlọta ụlọ? Ndewonu.
My name is Mohammed Saliu Nazif. I work for Voice of Nigeria. Mr. Chairman, members of the task force, my colleagues. First, I would like to start by saying Mr. Chairman made mention of the commendation the task force and the Nigerian government have gotten from the United Nations. I want to tell you that it's not only United Nations that has commended you. On behalf of my organization, Voice of Nigeria, which we are commending you. Yes. So we really appreciate what you are doing, so keep up with the good work. I know there are a lot of distractions, but remain focused. Inshallah, we will get out of this. Secondly, looking at the numbers, especially the fatality, which is 5 as of today, I want to register my condolences to the families for the loss of their loved ones. And may God give them the fortitude to bear the loss. Sir, what I want to ask concerning this number, is it included of the numbers of Nigerians in abroad that died? And if not, why? Are there no more Nigerians? Yes, that's the first question. The second question is concerning a novel written in 1981 by an American writer called The Eye of the Evil. In that novel, precisely page 332, written by Dean Koontz, he highlighted the issue of coronavirus. He talked about Wuhan 400 in that novel, which is written in 1981. So my question is, are we seeing a prediction coming to reality? Or is it a conspiracy? Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, sirs. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abiodun Oloyede Popola. I'm going to ask my question in Yoruba, and I'm directing my question to my Honorable Minister, sir, Minister of Interior. I'm from Voice of Nigeria. Orúkọ mi ni Abiodun Oloyede Popola láti ilé akéde Nigeria, Voice of Nigeria, ní ẹ̀ka èdè Yorùbá. Ìbéèrè mi àkọ́kọ́ padà lọ sí Minister fún ètò abẹ́lé, ìyẹn Ministry of Interior, Bàbá wa Rauf Arẹ́gbẹ́ṣọlá. Ìbéèrè mi ní ọjọ́bọ̀ Thursday tó kọjá, mo béèrè lórí ìlú Èjìgbò, lórí àwọn tó ń fara kó àrùn COVID-19. A rí gbọ́ pé àwọn èèyàn kan ń sá kúrò níbi tí wọ́n fi wọ́n pamọ́ sí. Ǹjẹ́ ẹ lè sọ dájú fún àwọn ọmọ orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà wípé lóòtítọ́ àti kó wọn padà síbi tó yẹ kí wọ́n wà? Ìbéèrè mi tún wá padà sí ètò ìlera. A rí báyìí wípé lóòótọ́ ẹni ká máa bomú, ká máa fọwọ́, kí a sì máa rí pé a tẹ̀lé àwọn àṣẹ èyí tí ìlànà àwọn orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà ti sọ. Ṣùgbọ́n a rí pé tá a bá lọ sí ọjà láti lọ ra ọjà, a máa padà wá sílé, aṣọ láwọ̀ lọ, bàtà láwọ̀ lọ. Àwọn nǹkan wo la lè fi ṣètò ara wa nínú ilé láti dáàbò bo ara wa tako àrùn COVID-19? Ẹ̀kẹta ni wípé àwọn tí wọ́n wà ní ọgbà ẹ̀wọ̀n, ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ẹ bá wa sọ lẹ́kùnrẹ́rẹ́ àwọn àmójútó tó ẹ tún ti ṣe láti lè rí wípé ààbò tó péye ó wà lórí wọn. Bákan náà, Mínísítà fún ètò ìròyìn àti àṣà, bàbá wa Lai Mohammed, ẹ̀yin jẹ́ Mínísítà fún iléeṣẹ́ ètò ìròyìn àti àṣà. A dẹ̀ rí pé ẹ ti ń rí ètò ìròyìn láti gbógun ti àrùn COVID-19. Ní ẹ̀ka àṣà, kí ni àwọn ìlépa yín láti rí pé ẹ tún lo àṣà wa láti gbẹ̀gìdénà àrùn COVID-19? Ẹ ṣeun, mo dúpẹ́. Thank you very much.
Ẹ káàsán o, ẹ̀yin mínísítà wa àti akọ̀wé àgbà orílẹ̀-èdè yìí. Orúkọ tèmi ni Òjó Suleiman láti lè ṣe rédíò Nàìjíríà. Nínú ojú ewé kẹrin ìwé àpilẹ̀kọ tí ìgbìmọ̀ fún wa, nínú àkọlé tó wà ní ìsàlẹ̀, ìjọba béèrè ìrànwọ́ lọ́wọ́ àwọn ẹgbẹ́ aláàánú àti aládàáni. Ó sì ń láàánú pé ní ìpínlẹ̀ Èkìtì ní ọjọ́ Ẹtì tó kọjá, àwọn ẹgbẹ́ aláàánú kan dìde láti fún àwọn èèyàn ní ìrànlọ́wọ́. Ṣùgbọ́n Pàṣán àti Kòbókò ni àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ológun fi lé wọn padà sílé. Ìbéèrè tí aráàlú wa ń béèrè ni pé a wà níjọba alágbádá, ìjọba tiwantiwa tí a pè ní democracy. Kí ló dé tí ìjọba ò lè lo àwọn ọlọ́pàá tàbí àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ afàjọdólógun tí a mọ̀ sí civilians láti máa ṣe irú ètò yìí tí wọ́n fi jẹ́ pé ológun wọ́n ń dá sí láti mọ̀ nà aráàlú? Ẹ ṣé, mo dúpẹ́.
Thank you. We have filled the basket of questions. They have been directed at the Honorable Minister of Health, the DG and CDC, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the Minister of Interior, as well as the Minister of Information and Culture. Finally, the SGF will wrap up the answer session. So we'll begin with the Minister of Health.
Thank you. I will take the questions that appear to be directed at the Ministry of Health and begin with the question of domestic manufacturing of equipment that might be required for the response. I did say that the Ministry of Health held meetings with the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment and the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria to explore these prospects. And we actually did talk about the possibility of being able to generate products here. The discussion was fruitful, and they included, in fact, production of ventilators. The driving force at the time was the concern that if other countries are competing for the available resources in protection, particularly PPE, and as we know at that time, the other big countries were looking for reagents, were looking for ventilators, were looking for masks, and even if you have your money, you might not get it. So we were looking at our own options here, and the interest was very high, and there's a company that even wanted to be able to manufacture ventilators. As for the quality assurance, particularly through the Standards Organization of Nigeria, that is something that comes up after the design. If they've done their design, the standards organization definitely will come in and put their own mark of quality on it, and minimum expected standards will be established. But even before you manufacture, you require to prepare for raw materials, you need to prepare your science samples, and that might take some time. And while that process is still going on as I speak, we are very grateful for the offer of support for companies and other organizations that are offering support to us. The United Nations group has ordered $2 billion of materials, which the first batch of it is coming in tomorrow. That assures us of being able to have all the things we need for the foreseeable future. The CCECC, as we have heard just now, has also offered us more materials, so we shall be comfortable for that. And we are particularly grateful to these groups for the help they are giving to us, and the anxiety is less. But this does not mean that indigenous manufacturers should withdraw, because they need to be able to look at the future. We don't know how long this epidemic will last. We do not know the extent of the generosity of our benefactors, so we need to be ready, and the design process for production should go on. Now, the other question was about mental health. Yes, it is a component of treatment, and if you look at video clips coming out from the Yaba Treatment Center, IDH, you will see that there are programs being set up there to occupy those who are on 14 days or more of isolation. There are programs with music and conversations and dance, which are addressing the boredom that some people might suffer. I'm sure that they have employed mental health consultants who have helped them to design programs that will help to fulfill those objectives. The Chinese experts, yes, anybody at all coming into this country will have to be subject to the rules and regulations we have set down. I'm sure that anybody coming here will know that. And we know that the experts coming from abroad, with all the valuable knowledge they are bringing, the hands-on experience which we want to learn, will still be subject to the rules that we have established, which are in the interest of our people, to protect our people. And even if we assume that they have done tests in their country, we'll still have to do the confirmatory test here. Now, the question of the suspect in Zodi, I'm not aware of that. I have not been told, but if you do have any information that is valuable, please report to the number that NCDC has provided, and we shall be able to carry out the investigation and find out if there's any problem of that nature. But we have not been officially informed of that. I think that is the question so far, and I yield the floor to NCDC.
Thanks. I think most of the questions today were for our chairman, the SGF. So I'll just answer the very few that were in our direction. I think for the lab in Katsina, we are working this week, activating 2 labs in Kano and Kaduna at the same time from tomorrow, and 2 labs in Jos and Maiduguri from Thursday. So by the end of this week, we'll have 4 labs, 4 new labs, Kano and Kaduna and Jos and Maiduguri fully active, and then we'll continue. So we're slowly assessing every state in the country, but we're starting with states that we already know have a baseline capacity to build on. Mental health is definitely part of the frontline workforce. This is obvious both in Lagos and Abuja, and has always been obvious to us. As we've managed cases of Lassa fever across the country over the last few years, you can't manage people in isolation without supporting their mental health. So this is something we've been very active on and keen on, and we're now adapting our guidelines for this new disease. On the case in Apo, like you know, I will never comment on an individual response to a patient. if there's any uprising or any problem in that area, the teams will work hard to resolve it. But we will never comment on the individual circumstances on any case. That is not the way we work. On the question in Igbo, that was again about the offer from China. I think the Honorable Minister has explained this in as much detail. Our chair has explained this in as much detail. I'll just paraphrase what they have said in Igbo. Onye isi anyị ekwugo ihe niile gbasara enyemaka ndị China si na ha ga-enye anyị. Enweghị enyemaka enyere anyị ga-asị na ya achọghị. Anyị chọrọ ka onye ọbụla nyere anyị aka. Enweghị obodo ga-emenwu ihe a sọsọ ha. So onye ọbụla ga-arụkọta ọrụ rụkọta n'otu ka anyị nwee ọganihu ebe anyị na-eleta ọrịa. Ihe so n'ọrịa adịghị ọwụghị obere ihe. So ebe ọbụla anyị nwere enyemaka anyị were kwenye ya ma na anyị nwere ọganihu. Kama onye isi anyị ekwugo enweghị ihe ọbụla a ga-eji n'ọrịa na anyị gaghị ele anya n'obodo anyị ma ama na emekwa ihe o kwesịrị ime ama ama oke ndị mma. So thank you very much.
The Minister of Health will come back to the podium.
I missed out one question which I want to quickly respond to. And before that, just to add again, emphasize what the DG of CDC said. In the medical profession, we maintain the rules of confidentiality. Under no conditions will a doctor disclose a problem of a patient, or if you do mention a patient, discuss his problem. So nobody should be weary of reporting themselves for help if they have a problem and they fear that it might be exposed. That is not the rule, it's against the rule. With the question of the NMA, we'll carry them along. I'm a member of the NMA. The Honourable Minister of State for Health is also a member of the NMA. And I have told the chairman, and we had a discussion with him barely a week ago, barely, in my office. And I told him that the door is open. All you need to do is knock. And whatever I'm doing, I'll be ready to see you. If you have any inputs, definitely through me. And he asked me what I would like them to do. And I said, we would like to register all the doctors who are willing to help, to volunteer, including those who are retired, so that we can have a conversation with them and be able to deploy them where they are best able to work, particularly in the areas of high burden like Lagos and Abuja at the moment, and perhaps Osun, so that we have better use of what expertise they have. So we are their eyes inside the committee, and the NMA is, in my view, well represented.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister of Health. I will call on the Minister of Foreign Affairs, as followed by Minister of Interior. Please, after responding in vernacular, kindly translate your answers into English for other listeners. Thank you.
Ajụjụ Fajo bụ maka ndị be anyị nọ na mba na chọọ ịnata mana ife mee bụ that na anyị edego leta to ambassadors anyị niile nọ n'obodo oyibo anyị jụrụ fa anyị gwara fa sị fa bee ka anyị malụ one na one nọ n'obodo oyibo nọ na befa ka anyị malụ so anyị send leta na izu ụka gara aga mana anyị aka ewetara ọkọtọ ndị mmadụ na-achụ ịnata kịta mana ọ wee feri one mana anyị ka na-eche ka amalụ one ha dị mana ife ọzọ a ga-aghọtakwa bụ that na ndị ọgwụ gwara anyị si that na ọ ka mma ka ndị be anyị nọ n'obodo oyibo ka fa nọdụ ebe fa nọ maka ọya fa nwee ike ịchịta ya n'ụgbọ elu oge ha na-eme travel so ha nọdụ ebe ha nọ mana ọ bụ na ọ nwere ndị chọọ ịnata anyị ga-eme ife niile anyị nwere ike ime ịkpọbatafa so ya ka ha kwuru so anyị ka na-eche anyị aka amara one fa dị mana anyị ka na-eche ka anyị mara So, the question was essentially our people abroad who want to come back and the efforts that we're making to bring them back. It's been a while now, and I was pointing out that we've written letters to our embassies to give us an indication of the numbers in the various countries. And once we have that, then we'll be able to look at the issues of logistics and how to bring them back. But that we should also bear in mind that the medical people have said that it's better to stay where you are if you can, that you stand a much better chance of catching the virus if you are traveling up and down. But nevertheless, we are engaging with our embassies to try and discern how many of our people really do want and need to come back, and we'll then be able to work out the logistics on how to bring them back. Thank you.
A kí gbogbo ọmọ orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà nípa ìdìbò gómìnà ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun bá gbogbo Nàìjíríà sọ̀rọ̀ lánàá látara àwọn oníròyìn. Ó sọ fún wa pé àwọn 17 nínú àwọn 27 tí ó padà láti Abidjan ni àwọn ti rí pé kò ní àrùn àjàkálẹ̀ àrùn COVID-19 lára, wọ́n dẹ̀ ti dà wọ́n sílẹ̀, wọ́n ti ní kó máa lọ sílé wọn. Nínú àwọn tí wọ́n fi ilẹ̀ yìí tí wọ́n jẹ́ 210, yes, 110, sorry, 110. Ọgọ́rùn-ún ó lé mẹ́wàá. Àwọn 95 85 náà jẹ́ ọmọ ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun, wọ́n dẹ̀ ti fi wọ́n lẹ̀. Ṣùgbọ́n àwọn 25 tó kù wọ́n wá láti ìpínlẹ̀ Imo, Ọ̀yọ́, Èkó, Ògùn, Ẹdó, Abia, Delta. 11 ló wá láti ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́, 2 láti ìpínlẹ̀ Èkó, 3 láti Ẹdó, 3 láti Abia, 4 láti Delta àti 1 láti Imo. Àwọn 17 ni wọ́n rí pé wọ́n ní àrùn COVID-19 lára, àjàkálẹ̀ àrùn COVID-19 lára. Wọ́n dẹ̀ wà nílé ìtọ́jú nípínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun. Kò sẹ́ni tó sá lọ lára wọn. Ìkan tó ń rí tẹ́lẹ̀ wọ́n padà rí. So èyí tá à ń gbọ́ pọ́n sá lọ yẹn, ìròyìn tí ò lẹ́sẹ̀ ńlẹ̀ ni. Olùbèrè béèrè pé kí ni ìgbìyànjú tí ó yẹ kí a máa ṣe láti rí i pé àrùn àjàkálẹ̀ àrùn yìí kò tàn káàkiri, torí pé àwọn èèyàn lọ sọ́jà, wọ́n ń wọṣọ lọ, wọ́n dẹ̀ ń rìn káàkiri, wọ́n ń wọ bàtà. Kí ni àwọn ìyànjú wo la lè gbà wọ́n tá a fi lè ká àrùn yìí lẹ̀? Ohun tí àwọn ẹ̀ka ìjọba tó ń mójútó ètò yìí tó ń sọ fún wa rè, wọ́n ní kí a yàgò fún ibi tí èrò bá pọ̀ sí, kí a fúnra wa láyè. Wọ́n ní ká gbàgbé òwe àtijọ́ tó sọ pé kárìn ká pọ̀, yẹ ló ń yẹ ni. Wọ́n ní sìn ká sọ òwe yẹn di kárìn ká pọ̀, pípa ní pa ni. Ká má tẹ̀lé òwe àtijọ́, ó ti dòwe àtijọ́, kò bá gbà yí mu. Kárìn ká pọ̀ ń sìn, pípa ní pa ni o. wọ́n ní ká má sọ pé ká ní ká pọ̀ yẹni mọ́. So wọ́n dẹ̀ ní lẹ́yìn tá a bá ṣe gbogbo yẹn tán wọ́n ní ká rántí orin kan tá a kọ́ nígbà tá a wà ní iléèwé alákọ̀ọ́bẹ̀rẹ̀ pé ìmọ́tótó ló lè ṣẹ́gun àrùn gbogbo, ìmọ́tótó orí, ìmọ́tótó ara, ìmọ́tótó ló lè ṣẹ́gun àrùn gbogbo. Lóòótọ́ ni ká máa ṣọ́ wọn wá ní gbogbo ìgbà gẹ́gẹ́ bí àwọn elétò ti sọ fún wa, ṣùgbọ́n lẹ́yìn ìyẹn náà ká mójútó ìmọ́tótó ara wa tá a bá ti jáde tá a bá délé, torí ètò ẹ̀sọ́ lẹ́ǹkan yẹn kò sí bó ṣe lè rìn kó o má fara kàn kankan lẹ́yìn tó bá fọwọ́ ẹ̀ tán aṣọ tó wọ̀ jáde yẹn bọ́ fi ibì kan wọ̀ míì tó wọ̀ ń ta. Ara àwọn ìyànjú tá a lè gbà wá rèé tó lè jẹ́ kí a sá fún àjàkálẹ̀ àrùn kòrónà. Wọ́n á béèrè pé kí ni àwọn nǹkan tá a tún ń ṣe o ní àgọ́ ìpamọ́ tí a ti ń kọ́yàn níwà tá a lè ti ń tú orí ọmọ aláìgbọràn ṣe, torí tẹ́lẹ̀tẹ́lẹ̀ ọgbà ẹ̀wọ̀n là ń pè, wọ́n ní ká má pè lọ́gbà ẹ̀wọ̀n mọ́, kò sẹ́wọ̀n bẹ́ẹ̀ mọ́. Àgọ́ ìpamọ́ láti kọ́ àwọn tí ò gbẹ̀kọ́ lọ́gbọ́n kán dẹ̀ kọ́ bó ṣe máa tú wọn ṣe. Ohun tá à ń ṣe náà là ń ṣe. A rí i pé a tẹra mọ́ ètò ìtọ́jú àyíká àti inú ilé tó ń kó wọn sí. Ẹ̀ẹ̀kejì, a jẹ́ kán ṣùpọ̀ mọ́. A dẹ̀ ń gbìyànjú láti mú àṣẹ àti ìdarí ààrẹ orílẹ̀-èdè ṣẹ lórí kí a jẹ́ kí àwọn kan lára wọn tí ó ti tán tá a lè wò gẹ́gẹ́ bí ẹni tó yẹ ká ṣàánú kan kúrò ń bẹ̀. Lágbára Ọlọ́run kọ́sẹ̀ ètò parí a máa rí yẹn ṣe. Ṣùgbọ́n àwọn tó wà ní ìkápá àwọn tó wà ní ìkápá federal government nìyẹn, ìjọba àpapọ̀ nìyẹn o. A sì ń bá àwọn olórí ìjọba ìpínlẹ̀ sọ̀rọ̀ káwọn náà ṣe bí ààrẹ ṣiṣẹ́. Ìbéèrè ẹ̀kẹta ó bọ́ sórí pé kí la ṣe lè gba àwọn ológun láyè kán máa mú òfin ró nípa àwọn tí ò dúró sílé. Kò sẹ́ni tó fẹ́ kí ológun ó jáde, ológun gan ò fẹ́ jáde. Ètò àlọ́wọ́ ológun ó ju pé ká máa séèyàn mọ́lé lọ, ṣùgbọ́n wọ́n ní pé wọ́n ní nǹkan tá a mú kí sòbìà kó fi dégbò wọ́n lólúgànbè là á ké sí. Ibi tí ọ̀rọ̀ àwọn èèyàn bá ti ju ti àwọn agbófinró tiwa lọ wọ́n máa ń pológun. Ẹ̀bẹ̀ tí mo fẹ́ bẹ̀ àwọn aráàlú rèé, ẹ jẹ́ a tẹ̀lé ìlànà ìjọba. Tá a bá tẹ̀lé ìlànà ìjọba ológun ò tiẹ̀ ní jáde torí kò ní kàn wọ́n dípò tá a pè wọ́n. Tó bá ti ń gbé ọwọ́ kan ju èyí tí ọlọ́pàá tàbí agbófinró míì bá lè ṣe la máa ń pológun. Ṣètò àlọ́wọ́ ológun ti pọ̀ jù, kò àwọn náà kàn jáde. Ṣùgbọ́n gbogbo ẹ lọ́wọ́ olórí ológun àti lórí àwọn ọlọ́pàá àti lórí àwọn ẹ̀ṣọ́ tó ń dáàbò bo aráàlú tàǹkó de civil defence wọ́n ti fi òté lé o pé ẹnikẹ́ni tó bá fi ìyà jẹ aráàlú kọjá àlà wọ́n máa fi imú ẹ̀ àtòrí ẹ̀ dánrin. Mi ò gbà pé wọ́n máa rí ológun tàbí ẹ̀ṣọ́ kankan o tá a fẹ́ kan fi mí òun dánrin. Bí mo ṣe ń bẹ aráàlú wípé káwa náà ká sá fún pàkúté ìjọba, má jà lójú tí ká pé ọba wà dípò tí ògè wà lẹ́sẹ̀ náà là ń kìlọ̀ fún gbogbo àwọn agbófinró, ológun ni o, ọlọ́pàá ni o, civil defence ni, kó má fi àjà àwọn èèyàn wa mọ́. Mo ti kásẹ̀ ńlẹ̀, ẹ ṣé o.
Honorable Minister of Information and Culture.
I believe the first question has to do with predictions about COVID-19 there's so much conspiracy around this COVID-19, many theories. Yeah, it is true that one Kunz in 1981 wrote a book, something like Fall of Darkness. The only relationship between that book and COVID-19 is just that in his book, there was a laboratory experiment in Wuhan. And in COVID-19, yes, it actually started in Wuhan, but the similarity ends there. There's also a prediction by psychic, one I think Sylvia, saying that about 2020 there will be an epidemic. But once again, the Africa check has found that it's not talking about COVID-19. Yes, so there are so many conspiracy theories about COVID-19, but I think what is clear is that COVID-19 started, about the end of 2019 in Wuhan, and according to WHO, it's a virus that affects your respiratory, system. But efforts have been made to find a cure. The other question I think that has to do with what the culture arm or the creative industry is doing to assist in sensitization of the public as regards the COVID-19. As we speak right now, some drama sketches are being put in place. Some of our artists have also volunteered to give testimony and help us in the fight against COVID-19. The NOA, of course, is breaking this down in so many languages. So I agree with you that we also need the culture arm to spread this message, because they can spread the message in a more effective way, because by using comedy and by using drama. I've seen quite a few on my WhatsApp, and actually you can see how extremely ingenious Nigerians can be and how resourceful they can be. So we'll continue to change the various messages, and we'll replace a few of them very soon with drama sketches using our creative artists. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We now invite the SGF to the podium.
I think basically most of the questions have been dealt with. Probably just for the purposes of emphasis, somebody had asked how prepared are we in case of an extension. That must have come as a result of my paragraph 2, when I said that we have observed substantial compliance with the directives or with the quarantine declaration by the president, and that we are preparing a full assessment by the end of the week in order to advise Mr. President on the next step to take before the expiration of the 14 days lockdown. Until we get there, until our report is ready, I won't be able to speculate what would happen, and also speculate on our state of preparedness. But I can assure you that in the same spirit with which the first declaration was made, it showed that we were prepared for it. And whatever decision Mr. President will take subsequently will be based on the information available to him. But let me give a bit of some of the things that we are looking out for. If there was a lockdown for 14 days, the first question we would ask ourselves as a committee and as a government is whether we have met the objectives for which that lockdown was put in place in the first instance. I can tell you with some measure of confidence that I think the experts can expatiate more on that. We are meeting the objective for the lockdown, because the objective primarily was for containment, stop the spread, be able to trace or track those that have been in contact with the first index case, and by extension with other persons that have been established as having been infected. I can tell you from the statistics that I just got now, so far, what is showing is that 34% of the infections now are by returning travelers. 25% is among contacts of those cases. But there is a development that is showing up, which we are keeping our eye on. That's the 41% whose source is unknown. Like I said, the medical people will be able to address that, but that is an indication that we are succeeding through the lockdown to be able to establish these parameters and also do the contact tracing in the manner, in a systematic manner, so that we can isolate those that have been in contact or those that have been infected and have not shown symptoms, so they have not presented themselves, but in the process we will be able to track them and take them out of circulation by making sure that they go into either self-circulation, but if they have developed symptoms, they go into the isolation centers that have been prepared by government. So when we get there and we prepare our report, the President will consider all issues in its ramification before a decision can be taken as to where we go thereafter. The second question is with regards to manufacturing of ventilators and other manufacturing. I think in a couple of the press conferences we have had here, or press briefings, there was an indication that already the Minister for Industries, Trade and Investment is talking to the manufacturing sector, MAN, Nasima and the rest of them, and all in an attempt to harness the production or manufacturing capacity of our local industries. I like what is happening in Cross Rivers. I visited a garment factory some time ago when I was in Cross Rivers, about 2 months ago, and I realized that those ones have already jumped onto the boat. They are busy turning out masks because, like the DG said, or was it the minister or the DG, that very soon a protocol for the use of face masks might be released that might create a situation where you have to look for masks. But there's so much of demand all over the world. America is looking for masks from China. Everybody is looking for masks from different countries. So if we can get our local industries to come on stream and give them some small stimulus through the package that is being put together by the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, and get them rolling and manufacturing these things in-house, in the country, that will bring back the wheel of our manufacturing sector on steam. And I believe that that will do a lot in taking a lot of our people off the streets in terms of employment. The issues of ventilators. I don't want us to trivialize this. Ventilators, the President of the United States, the mighty Trump, had to sign a defense act to exempt a motor manufacturing company, General Motors, for them to be able to venture into manufacturing ventilators for them. And from the report they have, it will take another 1 month before they are able to produce about 1,000 ventilators. COVID-19 is not waiting for 1 month. I don't want to underestimate the capacity of our industrialists, of our manufacturers in this country. But we should be realistic. Innocent Motors is assembling vehicles. We started assembling vehicles in this country over 40 years, almost 35 to 40 years ago, with Peugeot and Volkswagen. After today, we are assembling. I stand to be corrected. After today, we are assembling. We are not manufacturing, we are assembling. We are bringing broken down components and assembling them in their plants. We are not manufacturing. So to talk about manufacturing ventilators, I think let's not trivialize it. Let's go and source for it where it is obtainable. Right now, if you have money, you can't even get it. You have to go through different sources to be able to procure it. It's not readily available in the market. Since I became chairman of COVID-19, I've received proposals of people saying that we can bring it. Where are you getting it from? Even states in the United States are complaining that they have placed orders. The FDA, which is the main organ of health matters in the United States, has also placed orders on behalf of the United States to procure from China. China has been on lockdown, so there is scarcity all over. Other European countries are doing very well. I was listening to the news and I found out that the entire NHS in the UK has only 8,000 and their requirement is in excess of 40,000. They have only 8,000 and their requirement is in excess of 80,000. If it is available, everybody can place orders and just go and pick and bring. So let's be strategic in our procurement. Allow those that have access, those that have the contacts, to secure these things for us so that we can put it into use. When we have an unleash of the COVID-19 on our people, we won't wait for any manufacturer trying to assemble, trying to do tests. Wherever it is available, that's where we should go. I think that's the most reasonable thing to do. The other question has to do with the grant that was given to Lagos State by Mr. President, the 10 billion. We all acknowledge that Lagos is the epicenter of this pandemic now in this country, and we need to really develop a strategy of containing it in Lagos. It has the capacity of spreading all over the country if we do not successfully contain it in Lagos in the manner. I was on a teleconference with the Governors Forum yesterday. They have indicated that they will also be making such a request, not for 10 billion naira, but for some palliatives from the federal government. I told them that as subnationals, they have a responsibility of also exploring other sources, realizing that we are in challenging times. Like I said in my first press conference, press briefing, that the coronavirus is not only attacking our health, it is also attacking our wealth as a nation because of what is the volatility in the oil industry. So I believe that they will be making a case, and that will be left for Mr. President to consider and see. But I believe in the package that the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning is working on with the National Assembly. We will be able to figure out something that will cushion the economy, cushion whatever support the states are going to get, and make sure that we collectively put our hands on deck to fight this pandemic. Payment of local contractors. I believe that has been done. In the first quarter, there was a release of about 280 billion to the ministries that have a lot of capital projects like works and the rest of them. I think there was a release. And I believe that the Honorable Minister of Finance is equally working on releasing some funds to the MDAs. It is when the MDAs receive these funds that they will be able to pay their contractors and continue to run their project and their system. I believe the Minister for Health has appropriately dealt with this issue about Chinese doctors. And you remember in my statement, I was very, very clear that we should be very careful not to allow unnecessary controversy distract us from the work that we have set to do. What the offer we have received is simple. We are going to help as a responsible corporate entity that has worked in Nigeria for about 40 years and that is working in Nigeria now in the major infrastructural development of your nation. In doing that, we are sending 256 different equipments and consumables. But in addition to that, we are sending experts, medical engineers that would help in fitting these things and also training your people. And if the need arises, we are available to offer our own expertise and suggestions on how we combated the COVID-19 in China, and born out of our experiences, we are willing to share it. The Chinese doctors are not accredited by the Nigerian Medical Association, so they cannot practice in Nigeria. So I don't see where the fear is. They cannot see our patients. They cannot manage our patients. They're only saying that we have gone through this experience. Would you allow us share our experiences on how we were able to deal with our own? We are reading. We are learning from experiences. Some of the things that we have put together to bring us to where we are today and receive the commendation of the United Nations is as a result of sharing experiences. When we sit at meetings, when there is an issue, I will tell the captain who is in charge of NACA, can you call the man in Ghana and find out? What are their experiences? Can you call the man in Addis Ababa and find out? What are their experiences? The world has become a global village. If you are not willing to share experiences and you want to operate in isolation, you will not make progress. And that is what we are trying to avoid. We have read of how the Taiwanese dealt with their situation, how the Southern Koreans dealt with their own situation. So I don't see anything wrong from listening to the Chinese on how they've been able to deal with this. As a matter of fact, they have become the expert in that field because it started with them. No other person can give you better information of management of COVID-19 better than the Chinese. So I don't think we should allow ourselves to be dragged into unnecessary controversy. They are not accredited by the Nigerian Medical Association or Nigerian Medical Council. They can't practice here. They won't see our patients. They won't manage our patients. They will offer their experiences and their expertise. They will train our people. They will equip the hospital that they have taken over. They took over the dome. They are converting it with a hospital. The dome was not meant for a hospital. So they are bringing their people for the installation of the specific machines that they are bringing in for the use of the people of Nigeria. So can we please just do the needful and not generate unnecessary controversy around who is coming and who is not coming. All we are concerned with as the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 is to cater for the welfare of the people of Nigeria. And we are responsible enough to take decisions that will protect the people of this country under the authority and the direction of the President. Thank you.
Thank you very much, SGF. We will just take 4 more questions, follow-up questions from the FRCN Premium Times, TVC, and FRCN in Igbo. 1 question, please. No double-barrel question, please.
Good afternoon, the Chairman, Ministers present, and my colleagues. My name is Nancy from Radio Nigeria. I actually had 3, but since I'm asked to ask 1, it's to the SGF. This is the 7th day of the lockdown, and it was observed that it's been enforced majorly in city centers. Some suburbs are carrying out activities like business as usual. I want to know what we're doing to curtail the spread, to enforce these laws in that regions. Then some other listeners want to know the source where they can contribute their own financial support in containing this. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Nike Adebowale. I report for Premium Times. So I just asked one question. Someone sent this question in. A good number of clusters of people living with disabilities are not served in the campaign messages of the task force. What are you doing to address this gap? Thank you.
Bonsoir, je m'appelle Ernest et je suis du service français de la Voix du Nigeria, Voice of Nigeria. Je m'adresse au ministre des Affaires étrangères. Il est évident que Covid-19 est partout dans le monde et nous avons les ambassades dans les pays comme ça et nous avons ceux qui travaillent là-bas. Nous voulons savoir qu'est-ce que le gouvernement fait pour que ceux qui travaillent là-bas soient sains et saufs. Est-ce qu'il y a des situations là-bas? Quelle est la situation dans les ambassades? Et deuxièmement, il est évident que les familles cachent les enfants ou bien ceux qui reviennent de l'Europe. Ils cachent à la maison, mais quand la situation devient pire, ils se précipitent à l'hôpital. Si les agents de santé leur demandent comment la situation est passée, ils refusent de dire qu'ils viennent de l'Europe. Mais ce que moi je voudrais savoir, ou bien nous voulons savoir, est-ce qu'il y a des mesures punitives contre ceux qui refusent de dire que les enfants viennent de rentrer et peut-être ils exposent ce virus aux agents de santé? Est-ce qu'il y a des mesures punitives contre eux? Merci beaucoup. All right, I asked if those who work in the embassy, okay, those who work in the embassy, what is the government doing to help those that are working in the embassy? Because we have been talking about only those that who live in that country. But what about those who are working in the embassy? What is the government doing towards them? Are they in good form? Are they in good health? Is there any situation the government is doing to help them? And secondly, the families, some families, they refuse to tell some people that, or in fact, those are the securities that their children just came back from Europe, or the family members, they just came back from Europe. But when the situation becomes worse, they run to the hospital. There, they still refuse to tell them their travel history. Now, exposing these health workers to this virus, are there punitive measures against these people? Thank you.
Thank you. That will be the final batch of questions. The Honorable Minister of Health will be speaking about those who refused to disclose their travel history. The Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs will be responding to the question in English, and the SGF will round it up. Honorable Minister of Health.
Well, I want to use this opportunity to, first of all, answer the question of someone who asked about fatalities of Nigerians abroad. Every country records the fatalities they have, not according to nationality, but just according to figures. So if there's a Nigerian fatality in any country, then statistically it belongs to that country, because they are not by nationality. We have heard that there was a Nigerian fatality somewhere in another country abroad, but it doesn't count as a fatality of our system, but as of that country's system. As for those who refuse to give their travel history, I think we use this opportunity to appeal to everybody that it is compulsory. You do not mislead health workers by either refusing to give information or giving false information. We did truly have cases of people who gave false phone numbers or false addresses, and others who did not give a history of the fact that they were coming from abroad. Therefore, reducing the possibility of the doctors making the right decision. And that is very dangerous. We do not want that to happen. And in fact, you must realize that there are avenues of prosecution there if you put somebody's life in danger deliberately. And we also have ways of being able to get all the information about a person that we need. There are ways, if you really need information and you think a person is concealing information, there are other ways of getting it, and then if you are proven to be wrong or deceiving the system, there are consequences. So if you give the correct information, it is for your own good, it is for your own benefit, and the benefit of those who live with you, who are your members of your family and your friends, so that the necessary precautions and giving and necessary treatment for you as a person can be provided. I think that's the answer to that question.
Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Oui, merci beaucoup pour cette question. La question qui a été posée, c'était ce qui se passe dans nos ambassadeurs, dans nos ambassades à l'étranger, parce que j'ai déjà parlé l'effort que le gouvernement est en train de faire pour repatrier les Nigériens à l'extérieur. Mais en effet, nous sommes en contact permanent avec nos ambassades dans tout le pays. Et puis, certainement là-bas, ils suivent les mesures en place déjà. Mais c'est clair qu'aussi, depuis ici, depuis le Nigeria, nous suivons aussi leur situation. Et en ce qui concerne la possibilité de les rapatrier aussi, pour l'instant, notre position, c'est qu'ils restent dans leur ambassade, mais certainement, s'il y a certains entre eux qui aimeraient coûte à coûte rentrer dans le pays, nous allons le permettre. Nous pouvons aussi le rapatrier dans le cadre de cette répatriation que nous sommes en train de mettre en place. Et puis l'autre question qui a été posée, et la réponse a été aussi fournie par le ministre de la Santé, la question des enfants qui rentrent de l'extérieur et leurs parents peut-être le cachent dans la maison. Le ministre de la Santé a déjà donné en tout cas quelques informations sur cette question, mais aussi la question a été posée s'il y a des sanctions, mais peut-être on pourrait trouver des sanctions parce que c'est aussi ça mettre en danger la vie des autres, mais il n'y a pas tel quel des sanctions en place pour cela, mais certainement nous faisons ce qu'on peut, tout le monde, pour assurer que chaque personne qui entre dans le pays, qu'il passe 14 jours en isolation et s'il y a des symptômes, qu'il subit à des tests. Donc voilà, merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. We'll now take the SGF, please.
Well, mine are just two questions. One about enforcement. Well, enforcement is in different categories and grades, and I believe that the law enforcement agencies are taking their time to ensure that they enforce the lockdown in terms of cessation of movement. And all of you are aware of the fact that in Lagos State, there's an ongoing arraignment in the magistrate court now of disregard of the declaration in Lagos State. I believe here in Abuja, that will be in place very, very soon. I saw the police commissioner with the other law enforcement agencies on Saturday and yesterday on the street, ensuring compliance. But the fact of the matter is that the president is very clear about his objective, that this lockdown is not to inflict any hardship or pains on the people of Nigeria, but it is strategically required so that the health officials, those in the front line, will be given an opportunity to do what they are supposed to do. And it is for the good of the people of this country. The people in the satellite locations, if they think it's a deliberate attempt to either deprive them of their daily means of livelihood, that is not correct. If they are not well, would they be able to go out in search of their daily means of livelihood? As a matter of fact, they should be more concerned about their health than any other thing, because they are the ones that need to work harder on a daily basis to be able to make any reasonable income. So I will continue to appeal to them. Like I said, our first strategy is persuasion. The people of Nigeria must be persuaded that this is a necessary step in order to allow those that have primary responsibility of dealing with this pandemic an opportunity to track persons, trace them, and take them out of circulation if there is need for that. The other question has to do with where you send your donations. Why we did not publicize the first account is because that account is a government account. But I understand by the close of business today, we will receive the records of the new accounts from the central bank, which would now be publicized for the purposes of individuals, private organizations, and other critical stakeholders to make their contributions to those accounts. The first account for which we have received approval and is being opened is the one that government would send funds into for the work of this committee. That has not happened yet, but we are up and doing, and I can assure you that we will continue to work until that comes on stream. But the accounts that will be publicized for the public will receive the records of those accounts from the central bank this afternoon. I will make it available at the next press briefing so that you can circulate it all over the country for people who want to make contributions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of today's national briefing. If you are watching us from home, we have been reaching you through our partner channels, the NTA, the AIT, Channels TV, Arise TV, the Voice of Nigeria, the FRCN. We also have, and the TVC. We also have various print media houses and a battery of online platforms reaching you with information from here. The message for today is that you should not conceal your situation. You should report. You should help us to help you. You should save the lives of others. Don't endanger anybody. I thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Good day. Thank you for joining us on Nationwide. Well, we're starting a bit late. You're aware the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 daily briefing just ended. But here is the news. I'm Ruth Aguele. We begin with an update on COVID-19. 8 new cases of COVID-19 have been confirmed in Nigeria, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 232 as at 9:30 p.m. Sunday. Of the 8 new cases, 5 are in Lagos and 2 in the FCT and 1 in Edo. 33 of the 232 cases in Nigeria have been discharged, while 5 fatalities have been recorded. A multi-sectoral National Emergency Operations Center activated at Level 3 continues to coordinate the national response activities. All right, let's look at the briefing that just ended, talking about the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. It says the support coming from Chinese company is part of corporate social responsibility initiative to boost Nigeria's capacity in managing the coronavirus pandemic. All countries of the world seeking for help and receive help in the fight against COVID-19, and Nigeria is not an exception. Chairman Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Boss Mustafa, said this at a briefing on the intervention of Chinese in Nigeria for the fight against the disease. He said Chinese is only providing technical support and shall in no way be involved in case management or interface with the patients, noting that the task force recognizes and respects the competence and capability of Nigerian doctors, but appealed to medical professionals to see the Chinese gesture as an extension of development in the field of medicine.
There were 224 confirmed cases with 5 deaths across 14 states in Nigeria. The government of Nigeria continues to take stringent steps to contain the spread of the disease and manage confirmed cases. Testing capacity has been expanded and shall continue to expand. Currently, 2 states and the FCT are under lockdown on the authorization of the president, but several other states have put measures of restrictions of movement within their territories.
Right, the chairman of the Presidential Task Force there giving an update. Let's take you to Osun State, where we hear one of the early confirmed cases of coronavirus in Osun State has been discharged after testing negative twice for the virus. Governor Gboyega Oyetola made this known during a press briefing on the current situation in Osun State. Let's hear from Femi Afariogun.
The first COVID-19 confirmed case in Osun State was recorded on the 25th of March, a returnee from the United Kingdom who voluntarily submitted himself for testing and treatment. Unfortunately, since then, the number has risen to 20 confirmed cases. The good news, however, is that one of the earliest cases has returned negative.
It gives me great pleasure to announce that we are discharging one of the earliest cases from our facilities here in Osogbo after testing negative twice, in line with the prescribed protocol of the NCDC.
However, out of the 127 returnees from Côte d'Ivoire in isolation, 18 has been confirmed positive for COVID-19, while 109 returned negative.
All the returnees who tested positive are intact at our facility and are undergoing adequate and proper treatment at our care center and are stable. The 109 whose results came back negative have been released to join their families.
On the lockdown, the state, according to the governor, will soon deliver relief items to those who deserve them across the state. In Osogbo, Femi Afariogun, NTA News.
And in Oyo State, it is good news for the state governor, Seyi Makinde. He has tested negative for COVID-19 for the second time. In a statement, Governor Makinde assured to resume work immediately. Take you to Damaturu. Veterinary personnel under the auspices of a Yobe State Pilot Livestock Development Program have embarked on sensitization campaigns against the spread and prevention of COVID-19 to abattoir, poultry and livestock markets in the state. Now, this is coming on the heels of increasing cases of the virus infecting people around the country, and therefore the need to carry on board people working in the livestock sector of the economy. Mustafa Yusuf Musa has that report.
The world continue to grapple with COVID-19 and Nigeria recording cases on daily basis. Intensification of preventive measures in all public places becomes imperative. Toward this end, a team from the Yobe State Pilot Livestock Development Program, led by the program manager, Dr. Yusuf Madaki, took sensitization campaign to Damaturu abattoir, poultry and livestock markets, where the message of environmental and personal hygiene were delivered to workers in the face of COVID-19 threat to people's life.
There is need for us to sensitize our stakeholders on basic hygiene, sanitation, as well as other preventive measures to curtail not only the ravaging COVID-19, but other zoonotic diseases.
Though no scientific proof was established as whether coronavirus is transmitted from human to animal or vice versa, however, the idea of being safe becomes necessary, says Dr. Yusuf Madaki. In all the places visited by the team of veterinary personnel, they encourage and advise the people to observe social distancing, washing of hands with sanitizer and soap, use of face masks as they conduct their businesses. In Damaturu, Mustafa Yusuf Musa, NTA News.
The federal government says it is not only dependent on healthcare materials from outside the country, but has since been looking inward on locally made products. Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Health, Abdullahi Mashi, said this when receiving some COVID-19 prevention items from members of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria in Abuja. Olusheye Adegbo will tell us more.
Cases of coronavirus in Nigeria might be rising, but health workers and partners are not to be relenting in their efforts towards ending the spread as supports continue to increase, especially to workers on the front line, and taking note of the unavailability of some necessities like hand sanitizers and face masks at a public place like the Ministry of Health. Members of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, PSN, donated protective kits.
Little widow's mite to the Federal Ministry of Health.
Receiving the items, Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Health, Abdullahi Mashi, appreciated the gesture, hinting on the government's intention to encourage homemade health products in the fight against the pandemic.
We are meeting with the manufacturers group to see how all these commodities and supplies that we can make use in fighting the virus, that we can empower the local industries to manufacture and source them here locally.
The PSN Deputy President note, pharmacist Muniu Elelu said the materials presented were produced in Nigeria.
There's nothing that our manufacturers cannot produce in this country in terms of essential medicines. And we're up to the task. And now that the government has decided to look inward, we're happy with that and will not let the government down.
He assured of its members' readiness to keep cooperating with government. Demonstrations so far have since been portraying COVID-19 as an unseen enemy, and the fight against it is likened to a war. Actions therefore keep indicating that collective response is the key requirement. In Abuja, Olusheye Adegbo, NTA News.
Thank you, Shaye. Now it's day 2 lockdown in Akwa Ibom State, and socio-economic activities have been put on hold in the state as security agencies commence full implementation of the cessation of movement ordered by the state government. The order came following confirmation of 5 positive COVID-19 cases in the state by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. Clement Barricue, who monitored the situation in Uyo, now reports.
It is already day 2 of the cessation of movement in Akwa Ibom State, a difficult but inevitable action taken by the state government to curb further spread of coronavirus pandemic, which the Nigeria Center for Disease Control confirmed stood at 5 cases in Akwa Ibom. Major roads and streets are devoid of the usual hustling and bubbling, with adequate security personnel on ground to enforce the order. And as would be expected, the order is unleashing its toll on residents.
It is better we obey the lockdown. I know it's hard because it's very scary. Somebody like me, I don't like staying idle.
No food, no power supply, so you don't expect to stay at home not being productive.
This total lockdown order was to enable people maintain social distancing, but observation reveals that rather than staying at home, many residents choose to gather in cluster by the roadsides, while others take advantage of the empty roads to play football. It therefore left one to wonder if the lockdown was only meant to check vehicular movements.
That still falls back to awareness. Some people are not taking it serious.
Governor Domimane had earlier signed into law the Quarantine and Restriction of Movement Regulation 2020 to provide legal basis for the stay-at-home order. In Uyo, Clement Barukui, NTA News.
Now, in line with the presidential directive to cushion the effect of coronavirus pandemic, vulnerable and low-income families in Jigawa State, estimated at over 70,000, are beginning to enjoy from the disbursement of the conditional cash transfer funds in the state. Ibrahim Bello Gunda reports that it was a life-changing story for some of the beneficiaries. Let's see that.
A widow and mother of 4, Hawa Inua, alongside other beneficiaries in Jigawa State, share a common story on how the scheme transformed their living condition.
Kasuwa ta ya faɗa tun da a da ina ɗaukar buhun gyaɗa ɗaya amma yanzu buhun gyaɗa nake ɗauka ya kai 3 misali mun yi wa Allah godiya ba abin da zamu ce gwamnati wannan gwamnati sai dai Allah ya biya ta Allah ya saka mata.
It is heartwarming that beneficiaries who take home 5,000 naira monthly in the past now receive 20,000 naira each to cover a period of 4 months from January to April to help in boosting petty business and meeting up other needs of their families.
And if you compute the number of beneficiaries, we started with 22,000 beneficiaries. Now with the current data, we have more than 100,000. So this means more than $1 billion naira is being injected to our economy during every payment cycle. This is the payment at the baseline. And if you add up the top-up and the livelihood component that is also part of this program, is more than $1 billion naira, or maybe you're talking about 1.5 billion naira being injected into the economy of Jigawa State directly into the hand of these beneficiaries.
The disbursement, which goes hand in hand with measures to curtail possible infection spread of the coronavirus pandemic, is expected to cover 9 out of 27 local government areas of Jigawa State. In Dutse, Ibrahim Bello Gunda, NTA News.
Well, let's talk more on COVID-19. We know with the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic, it has given rise to many people, indulging in self-medication. We join our guest live now in Lagos. He's the president of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Mazi Sam Owambua. I hope I got that right. Okay, now, Mazi, if you can hear me loud and clear. Now, we know that self-medication, drug abuse is one issue, one disturbing social problem that Nigeria has been grappling with for a very long time. Now, with the outbreak of COVID-19, there's this disturbing upsurge of self-medication from people. What's your take on that?
Well, I think that it is a natural escalation in a situation where people ordinarily have had to take care of themselves. But the major issue is that in self-medication, there are certain conditions that you are allowed to self-medicate when you have simple illnesses, because the idea is that if everybody who had a headache had to go and see a doctor, then the doctors will have no other time to see other people. So have some simple remedy, you have a little cough, you have a little headache. But today, people are going beyond that and keep medicating themselves. And what is worse is that if you take medicines for the wrong reasons, in the right doses, in the right sequence and frequency, you are indirectly poisoning yourself, because every medicine is a potential poison if not taken the way it is prescribed. And with the fear and the panic in the air today, many people are being motivated to go and self-medicate with all kinds of concoctions that are being bandied around. My advice to everybody is to go and seek the recommendation of your healthcare professionals. See your doctor for prescription, and before you take any medicine, see your pharmacist for counsel and advice. That's the way you avoid replacing one illness with another one.
All right, Mazi, and following the pronouncement of U.S. President Donald Trump about the efficacy of chloroquine for the treatment of COVID-19, and some comments by some experts around the world. Now, we saw people, taking on the drug, talking about chloroquine. We saw panic buying and all of that. What are the consequences of such action?
I'm really embarrassed that President Trump is actively promoting self-medication, which might lead to self-abuse, drug abuse, and drug misuse. I am really, really embarrassed seeing him consistently promoting such a medication in the air. If this is a proven medication, or even an experimental medication, it is for the healthcare team providers to decide which patient qualifies to be put on this medication at this time. I don't understand the motivation, but it is a dangerous thing because, as I said earlier on, every medication that is not taken for the right dose or right indication, which is not taken in the right dose, right timing, and with the right framework of body conditions, will tantamount to creating more problem for yourself. So this tendency for people to go and self-medicate is not right. Of course, there are certain things which you are allowed to take care of yourself. Take things that can help you to boost your immunity. Eat good food, take some minerals and a few of such things and vitamins that can help you boost your immunity. But maintain the conditions that have been prescribed. Wash your hands, maintain social distance, and as much as possible, stay away from crowds. The moment you do this and you have any indication, then go see your healthcare practitioner, go see your doctor, go consult your pharmacist for advice before you take any medication. Otherwise, you are causing trouble for yourself and then maybe people around you. So I will caution everybody who wants to take a medication, if it's not the one that is prescribed by your doctor or the one recommended by your pharmacist, then you just don't have to take them. Every medicine has a problem associated with it if not properly taken. And that's the issue, because when we go past COVID, we're going to have other consequences that may emanate from the abuse of some of these drugs that are being bandied. Right now, government is on the go. NAFDAC has approved the clinical trial of some medications, including the one that is being promoted, the hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine. They may have some potential benefit, but science believes on data and evidence. And until that is fully accomplished, then nobody should take it. I believe that in the centers where they're doing clinical trials, they are putting patients on different protocols. And after that a body of knowledge will be available. There is no time anybody should recommend for you to go and self-medicate on issues related to COVID-19. It's a dangerous exercise.
Mazi, you mentioned immunity booster earlier. Now, I know the crave for it now is really high because people are trying to boost their immunity. Would you, from what you're saying, are you saying people should just go for any immunity booster, or are there specific ones people should look out for?
There are standard things people take generally, especially if you have symptoms. If you have cold symptoms, you have flu symptoms, if you have all those kind of symptoms, then you know that your immunity is challenged. The body's immunity is very, very, very robust, because if it weren't for the body's immunity, every virus, every bacteria will be beating us and causing problems. The body is well equipped, but you support it by taking the right meals and the right vegetables and fruits and taking enough rest. But there are things that are known, generally known, like vitamins, vitamin C, some of the other products that are vitamin, not every type of vitamin, but there are immune boosters that we know that come from natural sources, which is what I think people can take. There is glutathione, for example, which is now in different forms. That is also a known immune booster, because if you have a compromised immune system, you can boost them. But those ones are safe to take because they are naturally occurring things, and you hardly can take overdose of them. But anything outside these minerals and naturally occurring immune boosters, you must seek prescription, you must seek recommendation. That is the advice the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria is giving to every Nigerian, because we want Nigerians to be well, to be sick, and to be well and not to be sick. And to maintain that good health, it's a combination of your diet, your exercise, your mental state, and your inner well-being. I want to say that pharmacists are in the war front today with other healthcare professionals fighting this disease, providing the medicines. And I want to use this opportunity to continue to ask them to counsel the patients who come, whether they are community pharmacists or pharmacists in the hospitals, first to put down their level of panic. Panic will not help. Trying to take in all kinds of concussions will not help. So we need a lot more effort by pharmacists to continue to counsel patients so that they will get the best of the recommended products for managing this illness. Today, the most effective one is maintain personal hygiene, maintain social distance, and have plenty of rest. Luckily, government has granted us opportunity for rest. Let's go and rest, except you have to go out. If you're in essential services like I am, or the guys in NTA are, then you go out and you go back to your home and rest.
Very much, Mazi Sam. I know you have so much to say, but I'm sure Nigerians will heed to some of the things you have mentioned today on, not indulging in self-medication. All right, let's look at the economy now. President Muhammadu Buhari has given approval for a 500 billion naira stimulus package to keep the economy going after crude prices fell more than half the budgeted benchmark in the wake of COVID-19. Let's hear from Leah Katuma Batunde, who was at the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning.
The year 2020 was one so many people envisaged to be significant, and there were high hopes, but no one expected that a virus called Corona was going to come in and dampen global economies, bringing major markets to their knees all around the world, and Nigeria is one of those economies that were badly hit, especially with the falling oil prices.
The decline in international crude oil prices and domestic production may be magnified if a severe outbreak of COVID-19 occurs. Despite ongoing efforts to curtail the spread of the pandemic through compulsory lockdown of Lagos, Ogun, and the FCT, we still have to be very mindful that this can be aggravated.
Now, the president just last week approved a 500 billion naira stimulus package to put the economy back in shape. And given the breakdown, Minister of Finance Zainab Ahmed say the package is essentially to get Nigerians back into their jobs and profit making, and also to assure that there is liquidity in the hands of Nigerians.
Mr. President has also approved that the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning should engage with the Central Bank of Nigeria to agree on a debt and interest moratorium for state and for the federal government on CBN-funded loans in order to create fiscal space for the states and the federation. Accordingly, once average monthly receipts fall below a specific threshold that we and the states will determine, the interest and capital repayments will be suspended till a healthy path is attained.
In Abuja, Leah Katuma Batunde, NTA News.
Many thanks, Leah. Let's now go to Lagos to join Hingino John Adams to bring us more reports on Nationwide. Hingino.
Thank you, Ruth.
The 14-day lockdown to contain the spread of deadly COVID-19 is a crucial step to save lives. As this all-important step is ongoing, Lagosians are of the view that adequate monitoring and welfare are critical to preventing scenarios that can complicate the situation. Jennifer Igwe, who visited the Abule Ado-Soba disaster site and another area of Lagos where a pipeline leakage occurred, tells us more.
These scavengers and a few bricklayers at the remains of the Abule Ado-Soba disaster have locked up their minds at the lockdown directive to contain the spread of a deadly virus capable of triggering disaster bigger than the site where they are.
The hungry, they catch us at home. That is why they come out to come and find the thing where we go hit.
For a few victims of the Abule Ado explosion still hanging around, their submission is not that of disobedience, but search for a roof over their family's head.
I don't know anything about COVID-19. I know only about myself. If I have a home, then I can be at home. But now I don't have a home.
The lockdown in Lagos aimed at curbing the spread of the deadly coronavirus would have taken a dramatic turn in this area, Kakatin, under the Muson Okuola local government development area in Alimosho, Lagos. But for the timely intervention of officials of the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency and the NNPC, a pipeline leakage threw residents into panic. Apparently, the pipeline had been vandalized in the past, but was fixed by officials of the NNPC. A heavy wind, however, reopened the leakage point.
The whole community started smelling, and before we could, nobody can come out. I don't understand. Nobody can come out because it is, and that's when the wind is blowing.
One thing is pertinent, the need for safety in all areas, so that while trying to save lives from the tsunami-like virus, another catastrophic disaster does not make mockery of all personal and national efforts. In Lagos, Jennifer Igwe, NTA News.
Now, Nollywood actor and producer Funke Akindele Bello and her husband Abdurrashid Bello have been found guilty of violating the social distancing order placed by the federal government and sentenced to 14 days of community service of 3 hours per day, excluding Saturday and Sunday. They are also to pay a fine of 100,000 naira each in a judgment passed at the Magistrate Court, Ogba, Lagos. Each of them must visit 10 important public places within the state to educate the public on consequences of non-compliance with the restriction order. They are also to submit the names and phone numbers of every person who attended the party. The couple would also be placed on isolation by the state government to determine their COVID-19 status. Failure to abide with the court judgment and directives will attract more severe punishment. Funke Akindele, popularly referred to as Jennifer, and her husband were accused of holding a birthday party at their residence on Sunday with more than 20 people in attendance, contrary to the social distancing order. The suspects were arrested after a viral video of a large number of persons. That's it from Lagos. We now take a break. Nationwide continues after that with Ruth Aguele.
For now, the best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices, as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, coughing into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.
The coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, is spreading at an alarming rate all over the globe, including Nigeria. With the number of infected persons in Nigeria increasing daily, prevention is better than cure. Coronavirus has no cure. The virus spreads from one person who affects two persons, and by the time the affected person is isolated, the two persons have affected four, and it keeps spreading. You must take preventive measures to save yourself and that of the people around you. Always wash your hands with soap and water. Put distance between yourself and others. Whenever you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth. Clean and disinfect surfaces. Stay at home if you're sick and contact the proper authorities. Together, we can cut down the spread of the coronavirus. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest TV network.
Now believe this corona, you know, if you touch black man, if you like, gather the whole Niger, come together, make a cough. Nothing.
Which one you want?
Give me V&D.
I beg, get small pieces.
How much you want to give him?
Give me 200. Take your change now. You don't want your changes.
My people, this coronavirus, na serious matter. May una wash una hands regularly. Come use alcohol-based hand sanitizer. If you no see water, wash your hand. Oh, make una sit down for house. You see this virus, so it no get leg. Now we dey waka kurukere. No waka around, make the virus for die. No forget, say, the betterment of our people. Now for your handy day.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Welcome, dear. Have you washed your hands?
Inside my house again. This thing not the key black man.
I don't know if it's misinformation or poor hygiene that will kill you first. Coronavirus is real, and good hygiene practice will save your life. Oh. Anyway, no hand washing, no eating.
I will not take care of it. How's one of the parents? Coronavirus is real and it's on the rise. But you can help yourself and help others to be safe. Remember, we can stop the spread. It's in your hands.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Many thanks for staying with us. Even with zero confirmed case of COVID-19, the Adamawa state government is doing everything to prevent the spread of the disease. Mohammed Saidu has more on that.
Adamawa State is one of the states that have so far not recorded any confirmed case of coronavirus since its outbreak in Nigeria. But that is notwithstanding, the Adamawa State government is not resting in its responsibilities in ensuring that the deadly disease does not find its way into the state, or if it eventually confirmed, measures to curb the spread are well on ground. These measures include setting up and equipping an 18-bed capacity isolation center in the Yola Specialist Hospital and training of health personnel that will handle any confirmed cases should there be one. Sensitizing the public on the need to maintain personal hygiene as well as state lockdown to curb the spread of the virus. Inspecting the equipment donated to the state recently by the Northeast Development Commission at the Isolation Center, Governor Ahmadu Umaru Finturi said the state is making frantic efforts to save the lives of its citizens.
We've come round to continue to see how prepared the committee are and our hospitals and the facilities should, in case, if we have a case, that this state can handle and to ensure we don't lose a life.
The Secretary to the State Government, Bashir Ahmad, who is also the State Chairman COVID-19 Containment Committee, in one of his daily briefings said individuals and corporate bodies have started responding to the call for assistance because so far the sum of the 33 million naira has been realized with a donation of an 8-bed capacity temporary isolation center by Musa Garba.
We are still looking for space where we can have bigger facilities that can take 100, 200 as a containment area.
To serve as palliative measures against the hardships of the state lockdown, the state government has directed for an immediate release and distribution of food items to the 21 local government areas of the state. In Yola, Muhammad Saidu, NTA News.
The current scourge of COVID-19 in the country necessitated state governments to mobilize resources to establish isolation centers to cater for any eventuality. Abdul Malik Hassan gives an update on the preparedness of Katsina State against a possible outbreak.
With a population of about 7 million people and located along the Nigeria-Niger Republic border, the government of Katsina State adopted some measures to guard against any possible outbreak of coronavirus pandemic among its people. Aside the intensified public enlightenment, ban on crowded gatherings, and shutting down of its boundaries with other states, Katsina State government directed for the construction of a modern isolation center to be equipped with required medical facilities. However, as at the time of filing this report, the state government is relying on the 12-bed capacity isolation center located at the Federal Medical Center, Katsina.
We have the Federal Medical Center, where we have some isolation center or isolation wards where serious cases that require special attention would be taken to.
Co-chairman Emergency Preparedness and Infection Control Committee of the Federal Medical Center, Katsina, Dr. Sanda Abdullahi told NTA that the isolation center is ready to receive possible patients of COVID-19.
In the event we have cases of suspected or confirmed COVID-19 infections in Katsina State, I think we are partnering with the state government to ensure that all that will be needed to care for those patients in the event we have such in the state in place.
Dr. Sanda says a medical team is currently undergoing training on how to handle patients with COVID-19. In Katsina, Abdul Malik Hassan, NTA News.
All right, let's head to Maiduguri to join Abubakar. I'm sure we'll get more awareness on coronavirus in the rural areas of Borno. Abubakar.
Oh, you can say that again, Ruth. Good afternoon and thank you for joining us in Maiduguri. Rural communities in Borno State have stepped up efforts in sensitization and compliance with the preventive measures put in place towards curbing the spread of COVID-19 through inauguration of committees on public enlightenment. Memuna Garba examines rural communities' involvement in the fight against the pandemic.
Since the reported case of COVID-19 in Nigeria, Borno State government has not relented in its efforts towards ensuring the dreaded virus does not find its way into the state, as stringent measures have been adopted to minimize its toll in the event of any reported case. The setting up of a high-powered committee on COVID-19 and the isolation center, restriction of cross-border passengers and vehicular movement, as well as ensuring the citizenry observe the social distancing and station of hand-washing facilities in all business points, financial institutions and crowded places were some of the preventive measures put in place by government. Those at the rural areas were not left out, as local government councils took the campaign of coronavirus pandemic to their populace, where community, traditional and religious leaders are carrying out massive campaign against the pandemic. The involvement of these leaders is necessary to enable the campaign reach all nooks and crannies of every local government area, including IDP camps.
Created another subcommittee. That is, most of the local government, we have a village units, ward levels. Then we now make this subcommittee for them to be enlightened, and then in case of any incasity. And then we urge them to be washing their hands as duly mobilized.
Fumigation of places of worship and communities is also ongoing to prevent outbreak of coronavirus, in addition to germicides given to the people to protect themselves.
Royal Highness the Sheriff of Borno direct all the district heads and the village heads and the ward heads to create awareness.
Health personnel in the rural areas have also been mobilized and are on standby for any eventuality with ambulances and other medical facilities. In Maiduguri, Maimuna Garba, NTA News.
Still on the COVID-19, women in Borno State have also taken awareness campaign on coronavirus pandemic to Maximum Security Correctional Center in Maiduguri with a call on the inmates to maintain personal and environmental hygiene always. Pauline Kujevana reports.
Coronavirus spreads like wildfire, hence social distancing and proper hygiene method is recommended at this trying moment. It is against this backdrop that Commissioner of Women Affairs, Zuera Gambo, led other women to Maximum Correctional Center to sensitize the staff and inmates on COVID-19, considering their vulnerability in terms of congestion.
We want to draw the line, governor, and be proactive, and encourage our people to wash their hands. We believe this community is a community that needs to be sensitized.
Deputy Controller Correction in charge of the Maximum Custodial Center in Maiduguri, Nur Hussaini, was appreciative of the visit and awareness on the pandemic and expressed hope that the plight of lack of enough hygiene facilities will be met.
Government and everybody is aware that the community is here. That is why this thing is extended to us.
Similar exercise out with the image of camera, where some of them thank government for having them in mind with the awareness and appeal for decongestion against the dreaded virus, while the commissioner pledged to forward the plight to government for necessary action. The group centered its message on the need for proper hygiene among the inmates and report any sign and symptoms of COVID-19. In Maiduguri, Pauline Kujavana, NTA News.
That will be it from Maiduguri. Let's now return to Ruth in Abuja. Good afternoon.
Many thanks, Abubakar. And from Maiduguri, we're going to Jalingo, where compliance with the partial lockdown of markets and other business activities directed by Taraba State government is mainly observed in the state capital. Joseph Austin reports that many in the rural areas claim ignorance.
On the 3rd of March 2020, the Taraba State government directed markets and other businesses to lock down for a period of 2 weeks and allowed authorities to observe situation regarding the spread of coronavirus. It exempts food and medicine dealings as well as essential movement. The usual congestion at the Jalingo main market disappeared and roads were deserted on commencement of the lockdown. People walked long distance to their destinations following suspension of movement by tricycle riders.
Thank God that people understand it and are compliant.
My sis with Lego, I reached my Dasa. From my Dasa now, I want to reach Magami with leg. I beg Meguna pray, let this coronavirus go.
Security agencies were deployed to strategic areas and others patrolled the town to ensure compliance. Foodstuff markets still witness beehive of activities, but transportation of goods to many markets pose major challenge.
Kusan ga kanan asara ke sayarwa kasancewa ba za a ɗebi kayan zuwa sassan wurare da ake kai kayan domin a kasa ba.
In the rural areas, however, the lockdown was not observed. In Adokola and Takun local government areas, it was business as usual. Many claimed ignorant, while others saw it as unnecessary. For some analysts, it is clear that more sensitization is needed at the grassroots, and food markets must be restructured by authorities to maintain social distance. In Jalingo, Joseph Saundu Otsen, NTA News.
In Benue State, the government has closed Grace Cottage Hospital, Makurdi, for 14 days. If we recall, it is the hospital where the index case patient of COVID-19 was treated before her transfer to an isolation center. The Deputy Governor and Chairman, COVID-19 Action Committee, Benson Abono, disclosed this during the training session of pillars of the Committee on Operation Responses of Cases of the Virus. Let's hear from Charles Abba.
The training program organized for all the pillars of COVID-19 Action Committee is to equip them for effective operation response to all emerging cases of the pandemic. Chairman of the committee and Deputy Governor of Benue State, Benson Abonu, who charged the trainees to be properly guided, noted that there is no vaccine or cure for the pandemic for now. He also stated that since the one index case recorded in the state, there has not been any other cases. He further disclosed that 23 of the persons who had close contact with the patient, as well as staff of the private hospital where she first received treatment, have been traced and have been isolated. The chairman added that the private hospital in question has been closed down from public use. He also affirmed that members of the Benue State Executive Council have agreed to donate 100,000 naira each to fight the pandemic for 3 months.
It is meant to equip you operators to protect yourselves from.
It's a simulation exercise because we want to test how ready the state is in the event that we have a case of corona.
The trainees were divided into 6 groups for effective understanding of the exercise.
Well, the take-home message basically is that you do not go to war and then become a victim yourself. So everybody that is here today is part of the process of ensuring that we regulate and ensure that COVID-19 doesn't get into Benue State.
The essence is to build or even to remind people of updated skills in each area, thematic area, where we put together all our efforts and coordination to make sure that we get the maximum out of management of such an epidemic.
The participants were drawn from the medical, clergy, security personnel, Nigerian Red Cross, and the civil society. In Makudi, Charles Abba, NTA News.
And Port Harcourt is our next stop nationwide as we join Jenny to give us more reports. Jenny?
Thank you very much, Ruth. Good evening and welcome. Rivers State government has set up a 24-man committee to coordinate the palliatives aimed at mitigating the effects of the coronavirus pandemic. Governor Nyesom Wike announced this and ordered decisions to contain the spread of the disease in a special broadcast. Chazalam Ikie report.
The committee, made up of members drawn from the different strata of the state, are to ensure effective distribution of the palliatives.
Government has decided to set up a committee to work out modalities for the smooth implementation of this directive. This committee reflects all interest groups.
Governor Nyesom Wike frowned at the non-compliance with the social distancing measure by commercial operators shortly before dissolving the Rivers State Transport Company Board.
Government took this measure because the franchise scheme of OTC has become notorious for illegal activities that compromise the interests of the state.
He directed all borders to remain closed and announced the reopening of all but 3 markets on April 7 and 8 between 7 o'clock in the morning and 12 noon.
After those 2 days, the markets will remain closed. This is to enable residents shop for Easter and also replenish their stock of foodstuffs.
While thanking all well-meaning individuals and religious leaders for their cooperation towards containing the scourge, he announced that the index case has been confirmed negative and the results will be made public. Chiazalam Eki, NTA News.
And the commencement of the federal government's conditional cash transfer to vulnerable Nigerians to cushion the effect of the coronavirus pandemic is receiving commendation from Port Harcourt residents. Yanikume Ululu reports.
The conditional cash transfer is a federal government initiative. The poor and vulnerable group in Nigeria are identified, documented, and given 5,000 naira monthly. 20,000 naira is currently distributed to every vulnerable household in Nigeria, which covers 4 months. This is in compliance with the President's directive to cushion the effect of the COVID-19 lockdown in Nigeria.
For me, it's a welcome idea. It will help the person at least to live his daily life within that amount.
Or if the federal government can actually give some money to some people, it will go a long way to help them.
Some respondents appealed to government to extend the welfare package to all the states of the Federation.
It's a welcome development, but we want it to go round.
If these things can get to the people that these monies are meant for, people will be happy.
The social welfare package target is to ameliorate the sufferings of the vulnerable citizens. In Port Harcourt, Yanikume Ulolu, NTA News.
And if we are done from here, it's over to you.
Many thanks, Jenny. Now, I'm sure you're aware that there is a scientific basis for the effectiveness of alcohol-based sanitizers for killing commonly transmitted bacteria and viruses. Although hand sanitizers can help reduce the risk of contracting certain infections, medical experts say not all sanitizers are effective against coronavirus. Udwak Etim will complete the story.
Regular hand washing with soap and water remains the most effective method of preventing the spread of infectious disease, including coronavirus. Hand sanitizers can also protect against disease-causing microbes, especially in situations where soap and water are not readily available. Medical experts who identified two types of hand sanitizers to include alcohol-based and alcohol-free explained that sanitizers with less than 60% of alcohol are found to be less effective at killing bacteria and may only reduce the growth of germs.
One layer of fat is easily dissolvable by the alcohol content of the hand sanitizers, and it can be easily dissolvable by just ordinary soap that we use in everyday life, which is why washing your hands frequently is the most popular recommendations worldwide.
Recently, the advent of the dreaded coronavirus has prompted an increase in the sales of hand sanitizers in Nigeria. While there is scarcity in the product, some people are now making homemade sanitizers, which many believe may not be effective to kill the virus.
How do you know the quantity of alcohol in your hand sanitizer? Put it in your hand, rub it. As soon as you rub it, you should feel the coolness.
Medical experts, however, advised that if hands are dirty, hand washing with soap and water is still the more effective method to prevent the spread of the virus, even more than alcohol-based sanitizers. In Uyo, Udwak Etam, NTA News.
Many thanks, Udwak, for that update. Let's take a break. We're back shortly, so stay tuned. On Tuesday like this week, we continue the discussion on assessing national response on COVID-19. What are the proactive measures being taken by the government? How effective are the palliatives in the containment of the coronavirus pandemic? NTA Tuesday Live at 10:30 p.m. Incisive and informative. Don't miss it.
And it is irregularities in his breathing.
The first thing they said was he has a Down syndrome, but the Down syndrome thing is not even the problem now. It is the heartbeat that definitely has a hole in his heart. That was where oh my God, that day was just a different thing.
A lot of fake news and report circulating, especially on social media, on the coronavirus. Do not believe or partake in the spread of these fake reports. If it is not on the official website or news from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, disregard such report. Only together can we beat this virus. Only together can we overcome this pandemic. Follow the instructions and guidelines provided to combat this virus. Most importantly, stay at home. Self-isolate, regardless of your status. The virus doesn't move unless we move. Let us work together to better Nigeria. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands.
social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
We're glad you stayed. Time now to join Zulay in Kaduna for more on Nationwide. Zulay?
Thanks, Ruth. Good evening and welcome. There are indications that Kaduna State will soon have a COVID-19 testing facility. This means that results of suspected cases can be ascertained on time and spreading of the virus will also be curtailed. Achari Maxwell reports.
Coronavirus is real. It knows no bounds. It goes beyond social status, race, and geographical affiliation, ravaging humanity. This is why efforts are on at all levels to contain its spread. Besides other measures, medical experts say testing of samples of suspected cases will help to provide early management and contact tracing to control its spread. Kaduna State is upgrading the biosafety lab at Ntsoho Memorial Hospital, Kaduna, to strengthen preparedness and response against COVID-19. Deputy Governor Dr. Hadiz Balarabe led a team of medical experts to the center ahead of the scheduled visit by the National Center for Disease Control for validation and final assessment. In the days ahead, Kaduna residents will be looking forward to this facility upgraded and put to use as COVID-19 testing lab so that samples from this part of the country will not have to travel far for tests. In Kaduna, Achari Maxwell, NTA News.
And still on COVID-19, in spite of the 24 hours curfew imposed by Kaduna State government to control the spread of coronavirus pandemic, commercial activities have continued unabated at Kula Village Market in Gidangayang Igabi local government area of Kaduna State. Suleiman Abdullahi Gachikum reports.
It is a special day for Gadargayang Market and communities in the village and environs. While the streets in Kaduna metropolis and environs are deserted in compliance with the stay-at-home directive by the government to prevent the spread of coronavirus pandemic, here at Gadargayang Weekly Market, it is business as usual. Transactions from livestock to foodstuff and other consumables were on top gear. Although they are aware of the health hazard associated with this challenging moment of coronavirus, the ban in they have no option to come out.
We apologize for that technical hitch there in that report. That's the much we can take from Kaduna Network Center. But let's talk sports. Sports Minister joins Nigerian sportsmen and women to keep hope alive as Nigeria joins the rest